Okay, welcome back to the MindMates YouTube channel. Feels fucking good to be rocking this again. For those that don't know, who don't follow me on Instagram at the MindMate, just a little plug there. I actually broke this camera, and it was part of a extremely stressful week, which is actually what I want to talk about today. But before we get into that, this is the straw that broke the camel's back, really. And I was walking out of my apartment to go straight back into peak hour traffic. Obviously, you can see where my mind is with this, and I was just hating life, and it was all happening. And then I slipped. My camera slipped out of my hand, and $631 later, we're back. So it's a good feeling. But today, what I wanted to talk about, guys, was my recent relapse, actually. And it came about after a couple of weeks of just a few sort of volatile situations in my life. And, we all go through these sorts of things, but these ones were just things that were affecting me probably to a more personal level. And I actually had a relapse in my anxiety over hell and eternal suffering, which was really strange. I mean, this is something that I hadn't had for a good 3 years, and that's why I guess it hit me for 6. So what it was I was asleep, and I was kind of in that state of half awake, half asleep, and people commonly refer to this sort of thing as sleep paralysis, but I don't feel like mine was really sleep paralysis. It was more to do with these faces that were coming inside my head, and a lot of people that I've been speaking to about it, because obviously tool number 5 of Tommy's 10 Commandments is talk openly and honestly about it. But I was speaking to a lot of people about it, and many were saying it was just a dream, but it really wasn't a dream, because I was awake. I was honestly awake, and I was just sort of dozing. But anyway, my subconscious mind had all these sort of demonic faces coming up and coming towards me, and just as they had their mouth opening like this, and just before they were about to, I guess, engulf me, they flew away. And there was about 3 or 4 of them that were circling through on repeat. If you've ever seen The Simpsons, where Bart Simpson can't decide what to do, honestly, I can't remember anything more than that. But he always just says, "Hello, Joel. I call the big one Bitey." Yada yada yada, and I just can't stop thinking if that's what it was like, except with these demonic faces, with what I was seeing. And it was interesting. I'd just come off a couple of stressful weeks, based on external circumstances and things that I actually couldn't control. But what I noticed was that I wasn't putting my own tools into place. Now, with all this stuff and what I'm trying to promote, especially with the 10 tools, these are things that work for me. And I feel like they work for a lot of people as well, and they can really help abate some chronically severe anxiety symptoms. Again, as you know, if you have been following me, I don't believe in the word recovery, and I don't believe in complete recovery, because it's not about that. Like, I would say I'm recovered to an extent, but it's more that I'm more self-aware, and I know how my mind works, and I know what things are going to potentially make me anxious, and how I respond to certain things. So the 10 tools, things that you can absolutely take away, and you'll find the 10 tools on my playlist in the YouTube channel, but they're more or less management strategies and things that allow me to live a life like everyone else that doesn't suffer from anxiety, really. But the weeks prior to me breaking my camera were periods of my life that were stressful, and there were periods where I actually wasn't putting my 10 tools into place. So I wasn't meditating a lot. I wasn't doing any diary writing. I wasn't really speaking to anyone about the shit that I was going through. Not from like a psychological perspective, but more or less just, I wasn't just having those conversations that I think we all need to do with friends and family from time to time. But I feel after meditating and looking back on it, like that relapse I had, because it wasn't relapse, I had to call my dad and speak to him for an hour at 5 a.m. in the morning. I started getting these very obsessive thoughts. Like, I started thinking what I would have to do to make sure that I didn't go to hell, and make sure I never saw those demons again. And it brought me, it really humbled me. It was quite scary. It really humbled me. That's how I refer to it. It was, I felt like I was I was really becoming this sort of thing that I didn't want to become. And I was becoming this thing where, like, okay, I've got the fucking tricks to get rid of anxiety for good. Like, this is fucking what it's all about. But having this relapse was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me in retrospect, because it humbled me and took me right back to where I had been previously, and just made me reconsider ways I was talking to people and what the mind mate really is all about. So I guess in the future, if I have a relapse from time to time, it's great. What was most profound for me was how quickly the relapse lasted for. It was probably a day or two, and then I'm literally fantastic again. So to that extent, I believe that the strategies that I have in place that help with my fears and anxiety symptoms are fantastic, because I had this for multiple years, and going from that to now having a relapse and then having it for 2 days is just the best thing in the world. So what I learned from it, I guess, is that open and honest communication is the fucking best thing you can do. So I've got a speech coming up, which I'll definitely be putting onto the YouTube channel. But I've tried to make it as authentic as possible. And the reason I do that is not just to try to help other people with anxiety and learning about what mental health issues are and that sort of thing, but it's also as a way for me to reconcile on the fact that these strategies really work. And by talking honestly, I really get to let people in on my life, and when there's no judgment there, I get to learn more about myself every day. And that's why I think talking openly and honestly is just such a fantastic tool to have. But that's where I've been, guys. So I'm going to start kicking interviews with the experts off again. Way more stuff to plug for the YouTube channel and the Instagram. And I cannot wait to get this bad boy up and running again. So I will speak to you soon.